Filipino food was supposed to be the next big thing, but decades later, it still hasn't claimed its place in America's food scene. Despite bold, diverse flavors, sweet, sour, savory, sometimes all at once, Filipino cuisine is still overshadowed by other Asian cuisines like sushi, pho, and pad thai. But a new set of Filipino innovators are reclaiming this story. Food critics like Andrew Zimmern and Anthony Bourdain once praised it, yet it hasn't broken through. Why? But can Filipino food finally hit mainstream America? Filipino food's bad reputation didn't emerge overnight. It's deeply rooted in history. Colonization profoundly shapes not only the flavors of Filipino cuisine, but also how we perceive and present it to the world. Spaniards often dismissed Filipino food as primitive or inferior, while Spanish flavors heavily influenced our dishes. For example, adobo, originally an indigenous method of preserving meat with vinegar and salt, gained additional layers of flavor through the introduction of soy sauce and spices. Even lechon, a celebration dish with roots in pre-colonial animal roasting. Over time, these blends of indigenous and Spanish influences created dishes that were neither fully native nor fully foreign, but deeply Filipino. As colonization gave way to wartime pressures, Filipino food continued to adapt to survival needs. During the US occupation and World War II, sour and salty profiles became even more prominent, as vinegar and salt were used extensively to preserve food in the absence of refrigeration. Wartime scarcity forced Filipinos to focus on practicality, further reinforcing the idea that food was a means of survival rather than cultural pride. Chefs like Nicole Ponseca elevated the cuisine with Michelin guide-recommended restaurants like Maharlika.
All the Gen X kids my age, our parents were taking us to Max's Fried Chicken, Manila Sunset in Los Angeles. There is Elvis. There is Cendrillon. In San Diego, there was Point Joint. I mean, there was so many. And they were enclaves where we could get pancit noodles, bagoong, or pati so that we could have a taste of home. And they weren't just businesses. They were feeding my parents' soul.
Today, Filipino restaurants make up just 1% of Asian restaurants in the US, despite Filipino Americans accounting for over 18% of Asians in the country. Why? For first-generation immigrants, survival often took priority over representation. Many Filipinos focused on working hard and sending money home, rather than promoting their culture.
There's a little term that gets thrown around in our culture, and it has a big negative impact, and that's crab mentality. It's the idea that we're all at the bottom of this barrel, and the crabs are trying to get out, and once we get just to the top, another crab pulls us down, and we all start at ground zero. I knew that there were going to be people that said this isn't authentic to this region. And that's the thing with Filipino food is we're very province driven. How many Kampampangans are so proud to say their food is amazing? It had to reach a group of people that understood pride in their province, but needed to see representation, fun, fashion, so regional that it wasn't speaking to a broad enough group of people yet.
Such remarks created tension within the community and made it difficult for Filipino restaurants to thrive. Fast forward to modern media. Filipino dishes like balut became spectacles on shows like Fear Factor and Survivor, fueling an image of our food as weird or gross. Critics called Filipino food too brown, oily, or boring. These stereotypes mirror the challenges faced by other Asian cuisines, which often had to adapt their presentation to Western tastes to gain acceptance. Even when Andrew Zimmern predicted in 2012 that Filipino food would be the next big thing, progress lagged. In 2013, Filipinos finally began to reclaim the narrative. The Filipino food movement launched its first major event in San Francisco, serving 10,000 foodies a curated introduction to Filipino flavors. This marked an important step towards reshaping perceptions. By 2015, however, controversy lingered. Malaysian chef Juan infamously declared Filipino cuisine to be the worst in Asia. In 2016, Anthony Bourdain helped spark curiosity about Filipino staples like halo halo and Jollibee. That same year, Bad Saint, helmed by James Beard award-winning chef Tom Cunanan, was named the second best restaurant in America by Bon Appetit. This was a turning point, signaling that Filipino food could hold its own in the global culinary scene. From 2017 to 2020, the number of Filipino restaurants in the US doubled from 500 to 1,000. One thing that makes Filipino food so complicated is the lack of standardization. It varies greatly across regions, each with its own ingredients, techniques, and flavor profiles. This diversity means adobo or sinigang might taste completely different depending on where you are. Adding to this complexity, Filipinos are known for adapting influences from Spanish and Chinese traditions to American trends. Take Filipino spaghetti, for example, a sweet ketchup-based variation introduced during the US occupation, now a beloved staple at birthdays and fast food chains like Jollibee. In the diaspora, this adaptability continues. Fusion dishes like sinigang ramen and vegan Filipino food highlights how chefs innovate while staying rooted in tradition. As food scholar Martin F. Malalansan suggests, moving beyond authenticity enables Filipino food to grow and evolve, honoring its rich cultural heritage and the resilience of its people. When the pandemic forced people indoors, the Filipino food movement launched Culinaria Live, a streaming event teaching Filipinos how to cook traditional dishes at home. This sparked a deeper connection to Filipino food within the diaspora, encouraging a sense of pride and curiosity. At the same time, Filipino food creators took to platforms like TikTok, from tutorials on making authentic adobo to creative takes on ube-infused desserts, giving Filipino cuisine a more authentic and accessible presence online. In 2022, Kasama in Chicago made history as the first and only Filipino restaurant to earn a Michelin star. It took 96 years for Filipino cuisine to reach this milestone. Kasama's elevated take on Filipino classics showed that our dishes belong in fine dining spaces. The restaurant even gained wider recognition through the hit TV series The Bear, highlighting Chicago's culinary scene. Now, the Gen Z effect. Data shows that Gen Z is driving America's love for Filipino food. According to TasteWise, interest in Filipino cuisine has risen 50% in the past year. This surge is fueled by increased visibility of the Filipino American community. The cost of living crisis is pushing consumers to find budget-friendly yet elevated meals, said TasteWise CEO Alon Chen, noting that 89% of US dining now happens at home. Filipino food meets this need, offering bold, high-quality flavors without the hefty price tag. Over the past 2 years, Filipino beverages like ube lattes and coconut milk coffee with pandan foam have seen a 26% growth. The ongoing ube craze in particular has turned this humble purple yam into a symbol of Filipino food's modern appeal. Filipino flavors overall are breaking into new markets. Take Dear Flor, a Filipino-owned company that has introduced the world's first line of Filipino garden gummies. Flavors like mango, ube, calamansi, and buko pandan, spending 8 months in research and development perfecting each to represent Filipino culture. But beyond taste, they're normalizing traditional names like buko pandan and educating consumers about the origins of these flavors, committing to the stance that Filipino flavors can thrive globally without compromising its identity. To learn more about Dear Flor and their line of Filipino gummies, check out the link below. Filipino cuisine is on the brink of something extraordinary. As more Filipino chefs and restaurants boldly innovate, they're redefining what it means to honor tradition.
When you have entrepreneurs who open with confidence and with a dope product, you can't help but excel. One of the things that I do privately is I do try to mentor restaurants and restaurateurs to share stories so that they can have a safe space to talk about it. And I think the more we do that, the more we start lowering the boundaries. Heck, Jake DeLeon from Philip Manila just called me last week, and my God, I think he's so successful. He's been on Shark Tank. We are sharing stories as I'm building my new business and how can I help him? Or Masagana in New Jersey. We collaborate all the time. Or Woldy Reyes. That is the difference. That was not around when I started out. In fact, we need more entrepreneurs adding to the options, adding to the storyline, and we will see Filipino food continue to flourish.
While they challenge the ways our moms might cook, the core remains the same. The authentic flavors we grew up with. It's up to us to introduce Filipino food in all its unique forms, whether it's a hearty bowl of sinigang, a vibrant ube latte, a sweet halo-halo, or even a piece of candy. It's about the story, resourcefulness, resilience, and our diverse influences. And that's what people connect with when they taste our food.
Filipino cuisine for me is like the sleeping beauty of Asia. They become one of the front runners. There's no reason why it can't. Absolutely bang on.
These are the qualities that make our food exciting, distinct, and undeniably delicious. Sour, sweet, salty, sometimes spicy, and always with a side of rice. That's the essence of Filipino cuisine. And as the world begins to embrace it, we're just getting started. Thanks for watching. We are One Down, an independent Filipino media company. We work to make content like this accessible to everyone, and it's thanks to our community partners like Dear Floor that we can cover topics like this one on the Filipino food movement. So if you want to learn more about Dear Floor and how they're sharing Filipino culture with the world, one flavor at a time, visit their website here and consider checking out their line of Filipino gummies, featuring ube, mango, calamansi, and buko pandan. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe and follow us on Instagram, and we'll see you in the next one.